How's it going, guys? Thanks for clicking on the video. So for this one, we're going to be taking a look at a very well executed and affordable homage to a Rolex Submariner Hulk, which, let's face it, is probably the most replicated and homaged timepiece in the world right now. And we're taking a look at the brand SN017, and they're a Chinese manufacturer. You can find them on AliExpress, but they also have their own website. And this timepiece comes in at an amazing price of just under $250 US. And as we go through the spec sheet, it does give you everything you want in a nice and well-spec'd dive watch. But before we do go into the dimensions and specifications, I'll just mention that I know some people will just dismiss homage watches outright, and they only think you should purchase the real deal. And if that's your opinion, that's totally fine. I tend to be in the camp where I can appreciate homage watches because it's a nice gateway for people maybe just getting into the hobby that see that luxury watch and they just want to own something that's designed very similar. And a nice homage watch will also give you a feel for the real thing and can act as a very good placeholder if your intention is to save up over the course of a couple of months or even years to pick up the coveted luxury watch that you want. And because the Rolex Submariner Hulk has recently been discontinued, you will be paying a pretty penny for them. So let's go over the dimensions and specs for this timepiece. So you're getting a 40mm case size, just like a true Rolex Submariner. Flipping the watch to the side, lug to lug between my thumbs here is 48mm. Case height is 12.8mm to my calipers, and that's from the bottom of the sterile case back to the top of the flat sapphire crystal. Now, if you measure to the top of a Cyclops, just add about another millimeter. And finally, the lug gap here for the supplied OEM Oyster style bracelet is 20mm. This watch, sized up for my wrist, comes in about 156 grams. So again, within that sweet spot for a sports watch. And I should mention that this is the version 3 of the SN017 Rolex Hulk Homage. And what differentiates it from the previous iteration is that you do have an applied SN017 logo. That's that hexagon pattern there. Some people do not like it. I do find it's a little bit crammed in there, but it's nice that they applied it. And another feature is the signing of the crown with the SN017 shark, which I like that they took the extra step to brand the crown, and they also brand the clasp of the bracelet here as well, which I'll go over in a little bit more details in a second. Now, with respect to the execution of a dial, you have that classic Rolex layout. You have applied markers that are mostly circles with silver surrounds, except for at the 6 and 9, which are more like rectangles. And then you have that classic triangle marker at the 12 o'clock position. You also have the standard Rolex Mercedes hour hand. And at the 3 o'clock position, you do have the date with a Cyclops that magnifies the date 2.5 times, which is the similar spec to what a Rolex Submariner would do. And I do have to say that the magnification and alignment of a date disc is very well done for the price. As far as the colorway, the dial has a very nice sunray green finish to it. And then near the periphery of the dial, you just have a simple minute track there. Nothing in the way of a chaptering or anything like that, but a very clean design. It does say automatic and 200 meters closer to the 6 o'clock position. Now, outboard of a dial, you have this really nice green ceramic bezel insert that does a good job of matching a similar color and sunray pattern as the dial itself. You do have a triangle with a luminous pearl at the 12 o'clock position on the bezel. You do have nice graduations up to 15 minutes, and then you have Arabic markings at every 10-minute interval for the elapsed time bezel. Now, the bezel itself is a fairly standard coin head style bezel. It's 120 click unidirectional, and the action on it is surprisingly good and audible. Now, it is a little bit stiff to turn, but you can get each individual click very precisely. There's also zero backplay, and the alignment is actually very good as well. Now overall legibility on the dial and bezel is very good. You do have nice white contrasting markers against that sunray green backdrop, and all of the surfaces on the dial as well as the luminous pearl at the 12 are deep filled with BGW9 Swiss Superluminova. Now to me it does have a bit of a green tint to the lume, but I'll show you a low light shot now just so you can see how evenly applied that it is. And I can even do a bit of a side-by-side shot between this Submariner Homage and my Rolex Explorer. And in that situation you can see that both of them hold their own in low light situations. Very good orientation on both watches, and you're not going to have any issues reading this guy in the dark. Now the automatic movement that they went with for this Homage watch is a Seiko Instruments NH35A, which I think is an excellent choice. It's not a very expensive movement, but it is fairly reliable and more importantly serviceable if you want to regulate this watch a little bit better. With this movement you're getting a beat rate of 29,600 vibrations per hour. It's hacking in hand wind. It's got about a 41-hour power reserve, and it's a 24 jewel movement. Now to operate the movement you unscrew the screw down crown, and then in this neutral position you can manually wind the movement, which is quite smooth to do. If you push it out to the first position, you can quickly cycle through the date at the 3 o'clock position there. And then if I do pull it all the way out, it's got the hacking seconds there, and you can set to whatever time you want. Note that there's actually extra gaskets on the crown tube, and there isn't any wobble either, so I do feel like this crown is quite secure, aiding in the suggested 200 meters of water resistance. Now this case and bracelet are full 316L surgical stainless steel. As far as finishing goes, you have some nice vertical brushing on the tops of the case and the lugs. And then at the side, you have the case flank done in high polish. The bracelet itself is a 3-link oyster style bracelet, starting at 20 millimeters at the head of the watch, tapering down to 16. The case links are solid and they are fixed with slot screws, just like a true Rolex Submariner. And they actually mimic the overall construction of the Rolex bracelet very well. You can actually see the tolerances here are very good. You don't get a lot of jingling or rattling whatsoever. And I do want to bring up an individual size link because you can actually see that the slot screw itself is quite substantial, and it does give you a very secure feeling when sizing these links together. Now as far as the clasp goes, you're not going to get a Rolex style clasp. You're just going to get a standard fold over security with twin trigger release. It does have a nice 6 layers of micro adjustment anchoring points here. There's no dive extension, but when you open this guy up, you do get some nicely milled out swing arms here. You can see at the back that the end links are solid on this bracelet. And I think there was kind of a missed opportunity because there's absolutely no text or engraving on the case back. They chose to go with homaging the Rolex case back, but because they already took the effort to brand their clasp and crown, they probably could have etched in the San Martin shark and put a little bit more case information. Here's a quick wrist shot of how the San Martin Submariner Hulk Homage looks on my 19 centimeter circumference wrist. That is 7.5 inches if you're going imperial. And you can see it wears very true to the suggested dimensions of a Rolex Submariner. And I do think that the build quality for this watch is very robust. So let's talk about some minor improvements before wrapping up the video. I do find that there are some hot spots on the machining of this watch. In particular, the lugs themselves are cut at a very fine angle, and they are a little bit sharp. And you can see how the end link for the bracelet actually doesn't align perfectly with the lugs themselves. And specifically, if you take the bracelet off and try and put this guy on a strap or something, I feel like the lugs do protrude, and they are a little bit sharp against your hands. The same is true for the machining of the clasp. Not too many hot spots on that per se, but I do find that closing up this swing arm here, This post system here isn't as refined as I would like it to be, and as is found on some other Homage style watches. And then lastly, the minor gripe of not having any branding on the case back. They could have put a little bit more watch information on there. So I just wanted to kind of close out this video comparing the San Martin Submariner against my Rolex Explorer. You can see that they did take a lot of strong design cues from Rolex here. In particular, the finishing and feel of the Oyster bracelet is surprisingly good on the San Martin compared to the Explorer, but you're definitely getting the better Rolex clasp on the Explorer itself. But guys, to summarize, for a watch that costs less than $250 US, you're getting a heck of a lot of watch for the money. You're getting sapphire crystal, ceramic bezel insert, a solid bracelet that they didn't really cut too many corners on, a robust screw-down crown, and 200-meter water resistance, and even fine details like getting the magnification on the Cyclops fairly accurate for the price. But as always guys, please leave your thoughts in the description of this video. What do you think about Homage watches in general, and how does this San Martin Submariner stack up against what you've seen in the past? Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you like the content, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next video.